Michael Saylor made a huge announcement this morning that's left the internet divided. They've increased their cash positions to over $2.5 billion and even foreshadowed a 21,000 Bitcoin sale, at least at today's prices. And believe it or not, they are calling this their, quote, Bitcoin monetization program. Now, I think the real question here for all of us is, can Bitcoin survive when one of its biggest holders is dumping tens of thousands of coins on the open market? That's probably the real question. I think the short of it is it will, but I'll break down all the details. So whether you hold Bitcoin or MSTR, we do need to understand Michael's latest announcement or strategy's latest announcement. I think it's making some big moves. Like, it's making some big admittances here. He's finally admitted some things. All right. So before I get into it and give you my breakdown of it, let me just get you to the source material as quickly as possible. So here we have the strategy tweet this morning. Quote, strategy announces a digital credit capital framework designed to strengthen digital credit, enhance liquidity, and preserve long-term Bitcoin exposure while supporting long-term value creation. Sounds good, right? Okay, so strategy increased its US dollar reserves to $2.55 billion, representing 17.4 months of dividend coverage. The USD reserve may be used only for dividends and interest expense and will be maintained at a minimum of 12 months. Now, this is one of the big contentions that we've been talking about on this show since, 2 weeks ago, when... Actually, it was a little longer ago, where Saylor did a $1.5 billion bond buyback of the 2028 bonds, I believe it was, and it dwindled their cash reserves to 7 months. And that was the initial spark that spooked the market, that really got everyone, I think, a little nervous about what did Saylor do? What has strategy done? Did they finally make a mistake? Did they make a misstep and blew up STRC? We saw it go to, the price of STRC go to about $75. It did kind of, pull, wow, I'm blanking, go back up a little bit here. And as we've seen in the last week or so, Saylor, or again, every time I say Saylor, I'm talking strategy, guys, forgive me. We saw them increase their cash reserves to 10 months last week. Now they're at 17 months, and now they have committed to holding at minimum a year's worth of dividend payments. So on the surface of this, strategy has listened to the market. It realized that they spooked the market by some of their moves, and they are course correcting. So if you're an MSTR stretch holder right now, you're probably on this is a good move. And I will kind of give you my breakdown of the math and what I think is actually going on. Obviously, I'm not the biggest Bitcoin treasury guy. I don't understand all the intricacies of it. I'm a spot Bitcoin guy. I keep it simple, stupid. And that's why I hold Bitcoin. You know, I do what Saylor does, which is just buy Bitcoin. I don't buy the stocks. I don't buy the tickers of companies that buy Bitcoin. I just buy the Bitcoin. Okay. Anyways, going further, the stretch dividend rate has been increased by 50 bips to 12%, effective for the record dates in July 2026. We will continue to evaluate the rate monthly. Our corporate objective is for STRC to trade over time at $99 to $100. Strategy has established a repurchase program for up to $1 billion of our digital credit securities and up to $1 billion of MSTR. This will create flexibility to accretively buy back securities during market dislocations. Repurchases will not be funded from the USD reserve. That is another point of contention that everyone was talking about last week is, hey, is strategy diluting the common MSTR shareholders? And there was a lot of back and forth on Twitter where it did seem like Saylor was, for lack of better terms, and don't hate me, guys. I know you guys were yelling at me last week saying, Opti, I can't believe you're fighting Saylor. Like, this is a bad look. The big conversation was, it did seem like Saylor was gaslighting in terms of diluting the MSTR shareholders. Well, again, course correct on that. They basically said, hey, we will buy back $1 billion of MSTR when it looks very cheap, which obviously is going to be accretive to you that holds the MSTR stock. So he made two course correction moves here, which is one, they're going to be holding a lot more cash reserves to pay back the dividend. That's what everyone was concerned about. That was, I think, was the initial variable that caused the tumble in Stretch. Now, of course, they also address the common dilution, quote, idea of the MSTR shareholders. So, you know, on the surface, again, and actually it's probably a little deeper than just the surface, they're listening to the market. They are actively doing what Fong Lee was saying the other day. He's like, look, we make moves, we listen to the market, but we're also thinking in long terms here, longer time frames than just 2 months, a week, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, we're thinking 5 to 6 years down the line. And for better or worse, if you are an MSTR holder or STRC holder, you're probably feeling a lot better this week than you were the previous 2 weeks, because it doesn't seem like strategy is making moves that is going to directly destroy shareholder value. Yes, they made some moves that kind of spooked the market, but now they are listening to the feedback. Now, this is probably where a lot of the hot water is coming from, is this tweet here. Strategy has established a Bitcoin monetization program under which they may sell Bitcoin to fund our USD reserves. It is capped at $1.25 billion, so they won't be able to sell more than $1.25 billion to beef up those USD reserves. It will be used to fund their dividends and interest expense, and will be used to repurchases of digital credit securities and MSTR under our repurchase program. So part of that $1 billion to make sure that they're not diluting the MSTR shareholders will be funded by selling some of their Bitcoin. So you're starting to see the mechanics of where this is going. Now, with $2.55 billion of USD reserves and $1.25 billion of Bitcoin monetization capacity for reserve building, Strategy has $3.8 billion of dividend coverage, representing 25.9 months. Now, that month number is, I think, huge, because before 2 weeks ago, before they dwindled their cash reserves to 7 months of repayment, dividend repayments available, they were sitting around that 2-year mark, that 24 mark. And that was what the market felt comfortable. That number, I think it's not a coincidence that they're, going to hold reserves and sell a little Bitcoin to get back to 2 years of reserves for the Stretch dividend product. So again, it seems like that's what the market wants. They want 2 years of cushion for the STRC payments. That's kind of what's making the market feel a little less spook about all this stuff. Now, from I think a narrative perspective, this might be where a lot of the damage is coming from. Again, I've been telling you guys, I don't think it's a math problem with MSTR, with Strategy. I don't think the math isn't mathing. I think they are, in fact, doing what we've been saying for a while. They are doing financial engineering with Bitcoin, and they did test the market. This is also a bear market, so they're being stress tested as well. The Stretch product isn't that old, and, I wouldn't say they made a misstep. I think they made a move, and being a little more less cynical. Well, actually, maybe it's the cynical view. The market misread what the moves were. It spooked everyone. We saw a crash. The MSTR stock, common stock, is down. I believe it was like 86 before the show. I saw the STRC was around 78. I am going to bring the charts up for you guys so we can kind of read them in real time. Anyways, wrapping up, Strategy expects to remain disciplined in its use of MSTR issuance, particularly when the stock trades at or near 1x MNAV. So let's just go to the part that we probably care about. I don't know, everyone in the chat, what your holdings are. I really don't care what your portfolios are. We are a Bitcoin show. And even though you guys yell at us and call us simply Saylor all the time, this is what's happening in Bitcoin. Strategy, being one of the biggest corporate holders of Bitcoin, obviously last year, the Bitcoin treasury bubble or hype cycle, however you want to call it, was one of the biggest news stories. And right now in this bear market, the Bitcoin treasury thesis is being tested. The idea of, can you just buy Bitcoin, hold it, and accrue shareholder value, that is being tested. And now we're seeing they are course correcting. That's why they're calling this the Bitcoin monetization program, because they're starting to learn, hey, to do the STRC, to do this digital credit product or this digital credit idea, they can't just do it with only holding Bitcoin. They will have to sell some Bitcoin into the market. So I'm not here to necessarily gaslight or do air cover for Saylor. I'm here to try to break down and parse through what this information we're seeing. And for you guys that hold MSTR, whether you are going to get your gains. For me as a spot Bitcoin holder, all I'm hearing from all of this, again, I don't need to be convinced to buy strategy. I'm probably not going to. Wait, caveat, asterisk, unless it gets under $50, then maybe I'll buy a little bit, okay? I think it's going to rebound, all right? But from a spot Bitcoin holder, all I'm hearing is one of the biggest Bitcoin buyers is now going to sell Bitcoin. And what does that mean for me as a Bitcoin holder? Well, at least right now in this bear market, it's like, can Bitcoin withstand, another $1 billion of selling? We've seen what's happened with the ETFs, and I think I'm going to do a whole show tomorrow covering the latest on the ETF outflows. Just the short of it, they are being tested. It looks like the institutions, at least the institutional retail, they're finally going through their first bear market, and we're seeing what that's doing to the price. Though, caveat here, the fact that we haven't broken down much lower than 60K, yeah, it's like at 59, 58K. I don't know. It is feeling like maybe the bottom's in, but that's not what today's show's about. Let's look at the strategy press release on what this Bitcoin monetization program is, what these Bitcoin sales will look like. Strategy announced that its board of directors has authorized a Bitcoin monetization program under which the company may sell Bitcoin from time to time for three primary purposes: to generate up to $1.25 billion to fund their USD reserve, to additionally fund preferred stock dividends and interest expense as they become payable, or to replenish the USD reserve after such payments when management determines that it is more advantageous than issuing Class A common stock or other capital markets transactions, to additionally fund repurchases of digital credit securities or Class A common stock, including related taxes, fees, and transaction expenses under the repurchase programs. Any Bitcoin Any Bitcoin monetization outside these purposes or in excess of these authorizations would require further board authorization. The Bitcoin monetization program has no fixed expiration date and may be modified, suspended, or terminated at any time. The Bitcoin monetization program does not obligate Strategy to sell any Bitcoin, fund any dividend payment or interest expense through Bitcoin sales, or repurchase any securities. Any Bitcoin monetization will be subject to market conditions, liquidity needs, tax and accounting considerations, applicable legal requirements, and management's assessment of long-term shareholder value. The company expects to disclose material Bitcoin monetization and other capital market activities, including related balance sheet metrics, in accordance with its customary Form 8K disclosure practices and applicable law. Now, to wrap this segment up, here is a quote. Quote, Bitcoin is capital. This program gives Strategy the flexibility to use a portion of its Bitcoin reserves to strengthen digital credit, fund or replenish the USD reserves, fund dividend payments and interest expense, and fund accretive repurchases when Bitcoin monetization is more advantageous than issuing common equity. With a $2.55 billion USD reserve and a $1.25 billion of board-authorized reserve building Bitcoin monetization capacity, Strategy has approximately 25.9 months of current preferred stock dividend liquidity coverage. The Grok read of this, just a high-level breakdown of what Grok read this as. Here is Grok saying, so they're saying they leveled up from just stacking Bitcoin and issuing preferred stock dividends. Strategy set up a $2.55 billion cash reserve to safely cover preferred dividend/interest for roughly 17 months, authority to buy back up to $1 billion of their own preferred stocks and common shares when cheap, permission to sell up to $1.25 billion of Bitcoin if needed to fund the above or top-up reserve. Bitcoin stays the core long-term asset. It's active capital management to strengthen their digital credit securities, boost liquidity, and create shareholder value instead of one-way issuance. And I think that is basically the entire conversation here. From a math perspective, from a business perspective, it's the right move. Like I'll say that off the rip. It's the right move. I think if anyone has been in Bitcoin, has been all in on Bitcoin for a long time, we all have to acknowledge the realities of the situation. All of our liabilities, all of our bills are denominated in dollars, which is to say you need dollars to function in the world today. Now, will we get to a point where everything can be settled in Bitcoin? I think we will. But where we currently stand, you need to have dollars. Now, part of the Bitcoin treasury thesis is this idea that you can just buy Bitcoin and attract capital from investors that want to get Bitcoin share or get Bitcoin exposure, but they don't really want the volatility. Well, in the last week or so with the stretch product, we saw there in fact could be volatility in this. And so that thesis is being tested. So that last portion of that Grok breakdown of, capital management versus just a one-way issuance, I think it is getting a little bit blown out of proportion. He's basically running a business here. And yes, from a hardcore Bitcoin maxi perspective, the meme of never sell your Bitcoin, it's a good soundbite. It doesn't really hold up when you need to run a business. There are going to be at times, and I know it's blasphemy, I know it's against what the cult believes, you will most likely have to sell Bitcoin if you are all in on Bitcoin. Now, if you are someone that does run a business that gets cash, if you're more of like a SpaceX company, where you have cash flow coming in and then you can put your reserves in Bitcoin and not really touch it, that's probably, in my opinion, what a healthier Bitcoin treasury company would look like. I think that's what the majority of Bitcoin treasury companies will look like. It's just companies that are run really well and they put their savings in Bitcoin and they use that Bitcoin whenever they need to. What we're seeing from Saylor or strategy is, it is the classic speculative attack here. I know it doesn't look like that. Yes, it is financial engineering. But again, I was going to play this clip from Nolan. Shouts out to Nathan, the Canadian Opti over there with our boy Sessions. He did an interview with Tom Luongo. And one of my favorite content creators, Nolan, Count Bitcoin or Count BTC on Twitter. And Nolan said something that I found super interesting. And I think this is the best way to frame this. It's like, look, where we currently stand, the smartest people are at Wall Street, and they're all incentivized by the financial engineering aspect because it is where all the money is. You know, to become a rich person right now in the fiat world, you do have to do financial engineering, financialization on TradFi to get mass amounts of dollars. But Nolan made an interesting point. He's like, look, I think we are going to go back to a bimetal stage, but to get out of the financial engineering that we are currently in, you have to do financial engineering to break that model. But the difference is you're going to be using Bitcoin. And I was like, damn, Nolan's just always right on this. I'm like, I'm a Nolan stan. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me. To get out of the financial engineering that we are in, you will need to partake in financial engineering to get out of it. And we've heard this in the past from one of my favorite Bitcoiners, again, Pierre Rochard, who I wouldn't be here without. It is essentially a speculative attack on the dollar. Now, maybe you don't like it. Maybe you're not a fan of financial engineering. Maybe you're not willing to take the risk of losing your Bitcoin and giving up your keys so that someone else can handle your Bitcoin and do the financial engineering. And I think that's a very valid response. But we are seeing in the bear market, the stretch product, the financial engineering that Saylor is ahead of, it is being stress tested in real time. Again, the kind of idea that all Bitcoin treasury companies come in one flavor, I think is part of where this conversation should be headed to. There's just the average everyday company that puts Bitcoin on their balance sheet, puts their profits in Bitcoin so that, they store their value so they don't lose their value. So they're not holding melting ice cubes. And then there's the extreme other side of the pendulum, which is what strategy does. And I'm not saying it's a bad model. I'm just saying it is much more financial engineering. And I think there's a place for both of these, okay? So let's go to the strategy dashboard and you can see everything they said. So currently about $50 billion in Bitcoin, and it looks like they're not selling Bitcoin. I did see Arkham Research say this morning that Saylor sold $1.25 billion like on-chain. I don't know about all that. We don't have any concrete news on that. I think the price decrease in the holdings of Saylor in dollar terms is simply because the Bitcoin price is down. And you can see it's 1-to-1 here. It's currently $59,787. It's down 0.26%. their Bitcoin reserves are down 0.26%. So they haven't sold any Bitcoin. They are, though, in fact, actually saying like we're kind of prepping the market. You know, they're telling the market ahead of these sales that like, look, don't freak out. Don't freak out if we sell some Bitcoin. It doesn't ruin our Bitcoin thesis. It doesn't change our long-term view of Bitcoin. They're basically just saying, hey guys, like we're just giving you a warning. We are going to sell some Bitcoin if we need to. And you can see here, the USD months of dividend coverage is currently 17 months, 17 and a half-ish. They have 28 years of Bitcoin coverage if they sold all of that Bitcoin. But they are telegraphing we could potentially here sell $1.25 billion of Bitcoin. Now, I do want to give some of the different takes that I saw on Twitter, because it is going to really cover the entire landscape of how Bitcoiners are reacting to this news. First is John Carvalho. He is building a Synonym. It's a BitKit, I believe is the wallet that he is making right now. Long-term Bitcoiner. You know, he's a classic Bitcoiner, has been in the trenches for a long time. If you are a part of the Bitcoin lore or you go into the Bitcoin lore, he did the, you know, Bcash, Bcash, Bcash with Roger and made him rage quit. So here's his take. He goes, this is admitting the model leaks capital into reserves, yield payments, and financial engineering. So strategy is building an official valve to bleed real Bitcoin when the paper obligations get expensive. The same company that spent years pushing the never sell Bitcoin story is now codifying the conditions under which they will in fact sell Bitcoin. Classic paper, the underlying asset ends up subsidizing the claims written on top of it. Stop falling for this bullshit. So that's the probably more hardcore Bitcoin view. Again, as I said, when we got the $2.3 million sale of Bitcoin that a lot of people said was the reason for the Bitcoin price crashing, I don't necessarily think that was the case. It was just like, it definitely spooked the market, but like a $2.3 million Bitcoin sale, it's tiny in comparison to the daily traded volume. Like it's negligible. But the fact that the guy that said never sell your Bitcoin is now kind of changing his tune and saying, no, I never said never sell your Bitcoin. I said you should never sell your Bitcoin. Not that our company was never going to sell Bitcoin. And then everyone came out and they were like fact checking him and was like, look, dude, you in fact said that strategy will never sell Bitcoin. And now you're doing the opposite. That's, I think, where a lot of the ire is coming from. That's where I think a lot of the anger is coming from. As I was saying last week, it looks like everyone just wants Saylor to be the final sacrifice to a point. Like, I could argue one of the things that Nico has been saying, that we will get to a point where the Bitcoin treasury companies are capitulating and they're selling Bitcoin. I could argue that this is that point, that this might be the final capitulation. We have Saylor strategy basically saying like, we're going to sell some Bitcoin if we have to. Now, is it the final capitulation? Well, they haven't sold, they haven't actually sold the Bitcoin. They're just telegraphing that they're going to sell the Bitcoin. Now, here is VJ's response. Of course, the author of Bullish on Bitcoin, right? The Bullish Case for Bitcoin, wants a lengthy article, now a book that you can go read, one of the classics for all of us Bitcoiners. He goes, today's announcement from MicroStrategy does go some way towards the solution I suggested in the thread below. It deleverages the market by creating a significant cash runway for dividends. If opportunity presents itself, that cash can also be used to retire stretch debt. Is this enough deleveraging? Only time and the market will tell. And I like this take here, because in this context, in this framing of Saylor basically just deleveraged strategy because he realized, well, again, strategy deleveraged itself because the corporate level of strategy realized, hey, we spooked the market by trying to deleverage our company. Now they minimize the risk as much as they can up to this point. I'm sure we will see some more action on this front next week. I'm like almost convinced we're going to get another Saylor news story by Monday. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Now, this one is from James Von Stratton at CoinDesk, and he goes, so the biggest short-term overhang of the market is now gone. Saylor listened to the market with now 17 months of coverage. This doesn't mean moving forward MSTR outperforms Bitcoin, but it puts in a stronger floor. The debt will get paid off in the next bull run. Again, this is short-term concerns here. I think long-term, the math is like, they're fine. the whole idea that strategy is in a death spiral, or, you know, that stretch product is over, I think it was overblown from the start. I think the market was, and this might be a hot take, and maybe this is just me being cynical, it really does feel as if the market investors, you know, the retail that was buying stretch and MSTR, I think they got a little caught offside and they misread these moves. And then we saw some panic in the product, or in the market, in the price of these stocks. And then we saw a lot of shorts piling up on top of that. And then I think just people, as it started to cascade down, they got spooked out. They couldn't take the pain. Bear market things. Okay. So I think long term, it's probably going to make strategy stronger. In the short term, obviously, there's a little bit of pain and volatility. Now, this last one is Thomas Brazil. And I really, again, just found out about him because I was watching Nolan. And this guy's job is investing in distressed products, particularly distressed crypto products. So I think he bought like FTX, Bitcoin, pennies on the dollar. So he has a good insight on what this overall means for strategy as a company, from someone that it's essentially his job to, you know, pick up these distressed products. Now, his view is not that strategy is a distressed concern right now. Here's his tweet. He goes, "This is very measured and it's great to see. Michael took an even more thoughtful and disciplined approach than I had suggested. This is a win for Bitcoin, a win for the common shareholders, and a win for the preferred holders. If Bitcoin can remain around 60K while strategy sells up to $1.25 billion of Bitcoin, it would be a huge validation of the strategy model as a Bitcoin treasury company. It would also strengthen the investment case for the other digital asset treasury companies. Congratulations to Michael and the entire team. Well done." So, as I was saying last week, yes, there was a test in strategy in the product, but everyone read this as Saylor made a fatal mistake. Now we've seen in the 2 weeks since that initial announcement, they are, again, getting feedback from the market, getting feedback from the investors, and doing what they can to, again, raise the confidence level in people investing in this product. If you view all of Saylor, sorry, I keep saying Saylor, I don't mean to personalize this. If you view all of strategy's moves in the context of him trying to get into the S&P 500, for better or worse, whether you agree with that idea, I think it makes a lot of sense for his company. Now, again, who am I to say what they should be doing with their company? As long as the shareholders are okay with this, as long as the people investing in MSTR are happy with these moves, people investing in STRC are okay with these moves, who am I to say what you should be doing with your money? But personally, I don't think that there's a miscalculation here. From a view of a business that its sole job is to essentially trade Bitcoin, you know, buy Bitcoin, issue more stocks, use that Bitcoin as capital, I think it makes sense from a business perspective. Again, I always view this from like an individual perspective. One, I don't recommend leverage. I'm not leverage, but all in on Bitcoin, there are times where you have to sell a little Bitcoin to pay your bills. Now, it does get a little trickier when you have, you know, debt obligations on top of your Bitcoin, when you do have leverage on your Bitcoin stack to continue to fund the quote, you know, flywheel mechanism that we've all been covering for the last, what, 2, 3, 4 years. So is the math broken? No, I don't. I think these are probably very smart moves, and they will, in fact, make MSTR stronger moving forward. But it will be very interesting to watch what happens with the Bitcoin price once we see, again, the guy that said never sell your Bitcoin start to sell Bitcoin. I think the way that this will work out is Saylor will still be a net buyer of Bitcoin in the sense that even if he sells 21,000 Bitcoin, I'm sure on the month-to-month chart, he's going to be buying more Bitcoin. But with that in mind, you better believe that when we get a $1.25 billion sale from Saylor, the media is going to pile on. I'm sure the shorts will pile on and on top of that as well. And there might, you know, hey, the price might dip, okay? You just got to think about all of this in the context of it doesn't necessarily matter what is going on the main chain per se. A lot of what you see in a bear market is narrative driven. it is becoming very obvious that narrative is driving price. Now, you may not like that. You may be thinking in a utopian view, like the only thing that matters is the on-chain metrics of Bitcoin. Yeah, but that's not how human psychology is. If we get a $1.25 billion sale from Bitcoin, it's going to spook a lot of investors. Now, does that mean you should sell your Bitcoin? Absolutely not. It just means you get a discount if it does go down. But remember that one clip we played a little while ago where Saylor was saying, look, I'll buy billions of dollars of Bitcoin, the price dumps. I'll sell a little bit of Bitcoin, the price goes up. So we could see a situation where they sell Bitcoin and the price goes up. But if we are kind of thinking this through as just like pure supply demand economics, and then on top of that, a narrative driven price move, I'm sure if next week we find out they sold $1.25 billion of Bitcoin, like we're going in the 50Ks, okay? Now, if we don't, that would further strengthen my bull case here that, oh, okay, the bears have run out of steam. If we're not going to break under the 60K level, to me, it looks like the bears have run out of steam. Now, obviously, we're testing it. It's around 59K right now. So arguably, you know, if you're trying to actually me, bro, you're like, dude, we're under 60K. I'm like, yeah, but like 58 to 60K, it's still basically 60K. Okay. You know, 42 IQ. I'm just going to round up to the largest number here. So let's just look at the stock real quick. Let's see what the market's thinking on this. Here is the 1-day MSTR chart. And obviously on this move this morning, the price is up, which my read of this, the psychology of this is it seems like the MSTR stockholders are starting to feel a little less scared. They're starting to feel like, okay, confidence is coming back into Saylor. Confidence is coming back into the company that they can manage their finances correctly. Or further, just, hey, dude, it's a good discount. I'm going to buy it because it's on sale. Now, back to the STRC product. And this is actually surprising. This is the strongest move here. It has shored up the STRC price. It's starting to get a little bullish. It's going back to that $99 to $100 par here. So you can see a huge jump on this news. Let's see, where did it close? It was on Friday at $72, opened at 81, and currently at 83.5. So obviously, just from a read of how the market is viewing this, it's a strong move for the company. Again, I think I was saying it last week. Oh, I didn't pull it up. As I was saying on, I believe it was Friday or Thursday of, no, I wasn't here on Friday. It was on Thursday or Wednesday of last week. I said something a little cynical of like, can Saylor, you know, pull another rabbit out of the hat? As of today, it seems like he did. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be resolved in one day. This is one of those things we're going to be watching this all week. Okay. This is going to be we'll probably be watching this exact move until next week. I'll do my best to not cover it every single day unless something big happens in these stocks and with Saylor. But it looks as if from just reading the psychology of these charts, it looks like the MSTR holders and the STRC holders, they're happy on these moves. I also, even though I don't hold them, do believe that these were smart business moves. Now, obviously, it does break the, you know, ironclad law of never sell your Bitcoin. You know, you could feel a certain way about that, hey, they're talking about selling Bitcoin like this is not good. But again, I don't hold strategy. Personally, I'm looking at these moves as objective as possible, and they're smart moves for the stocks, for the stock tickers. From a spot Bitcoin perspective, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous about these $21,000 sale or 21,000 Bitcoin sales. But if you read the fine print of that, he's not necessarily saying I'm going to sell $1.25 billion of Bitcoin tomorrow or next week. He's saying we will sell up to that point. So that's the upper limit of how much they will sell to protect the STRC product. So in reality, in practice, it might not be 21,000 coins that are sold on the market or OTC, or however you want to view this. It could be again, a couple hundred. It could be 2.3 million like we saw 2 weeks ago. It could be 10,000. It could be 20. It could be 20,000. But again, I'm guessing that they're going to be a net buyer. That even if they sell a little bit of Bitcoin 1 week, I'm sure by the month, they're going to be buying more Bitcoin than they sold. So again, I guess his new meme of don't sell more Bitcoin than you own. I think that's what he said. That's the new company motto here. That's how their framework's going to work moving forward. So is it over? Is there a death spiral in strategy and stretch? No, I think it was overblown. Again, I think people are just very, very upset right now in the bear market. We're all tired. It's been a brutal bear market. The sentiment is horrible. Yes, the price hasn't crashed 80% yet. I'll throw the yet in there. I think people are just looking for someone, to really blame, to really put all the blame on. And right now, everyone is choosing Saylor. It looks like the slay your heroes meme has been put into overdrive. But I just realized I've been rambling about this for a while. When is it going to go live? Is it not live? No, we're live. We're live. Okay. For the rest of the show, I want to play this clip. I didn't get a chance to play it on Friday. Well, actually, I wasn't here on Friday, but the clip came out after we went live. And it is this Joe Kernan clip with this Grantham guy, this like boomer billionaire investor, and he is just hating on Bitcoin. And Joe Kernan is doing the pro Bitcoin stance. So I want to cover that and talk about that a little bit. And then forgive me, guys, again, forgive me, but I do got to give an update on the Clarity Act here, since we got the updated timeline. It is July 4th this weekend, so we're going to see a recess. So the timeline, we're not going to get the July 4th timeline, okay? Now, the new kind of timeline is pushed back another month. If we don't hit this latest timeline, I think we might not see it happen this year. And then to wrap up the show, it's solo, Simply Opti today. I think we're going to get a little bullish on the end of the show, okay? I'm not calling the bottom yet. Well, I have called it before, but we're going to get a little bullish, okay? On that note, I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. Jeez, guys, I spilled water all over myself on the break. Oh, man. Oh, look at this hair. All right, hold on. My life's in shambles right now. Give me a second, guys. Wow, dude. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. The current Bitcoin price is 60,407. Actually, let's refresh. Let's get the okay. $60,480 per coin, which is a 52.1% discount from all-time high. We have Reclaim, the $1.21 trillion market cap, and the current block height, TikTok next block, 955,958. Okay, so You guys know that Joe Kernan, aka Joe Squawk on Twitter, is the best Bitcoin maxi, best Bitcoin maxi on the corporate press. And there was this clip that was going viral of him arguing with, I believe the guy's name is Justin Gartham. And look, hey, I love my boomers out there, but there is the millennial boomer divide here. And literally my whole view with this is like the classic Simpsons, like old man yells at the clouds. Now I'm not trying to be an ageist here, okay? But I think it's such a good summary, a good view of where we currently are in this bear market. Remember what we were saying the other day, I think it was Thursday when I was on the show, where we are starting to see the capitulation and just a straight hate and vitriol against Bitcoin. And this is what you love to see at the bottom of a bear market. The more you get the Bitcoin is dead meme circulating, the more you start to hear, quote, smart money and billionaire investors come out and start hating on Bitcoin. The more I am just reminded that like we're correct here, and this is just bear market things. And I love to see these at the bottom, and these will be the moments when we look back in time and 2020 is hindsight, and we'll be like, it marked the bottom. God, you just, every time you see these, you're like, okay, the world is healing. We're getting closer. It's almost that time. It's almost that time where we can start to reclaim our glory here. But we're not there yet. But let's watch this clip. It is a little longer than usual, guys, but I think it's worth watching.
What represents a form of exchange, and the way that Bitcoin is structured, fine. There are people that would argue with you that it has a hard asset.
Other than the fact that some people have made a lot of money, like a chain letter, what does crypto do?
I don't understand the question. What
is the use of crypto? It pays no dividend. It doesn't represent an asset you can put your fingers on. There is nothing there. It is just an idea that it will go up in price. If you trust me, it will go up in price.
On an island, when shells were used to represent an hour of work, that you got 100 people, each one.
A good comparison. This is completely faith-based.
No, it represents proof of work. It represents proof of work. You're going to be totally wrong on Bitcoin, too? You're going to be wrong on everything you've covered.
Proof of unnecessary work shouldn't be worth a bucket of warm spit, and it will not be.
All right. It's only been 20 years so far, so someday you might be right about this.
Well, look, Warren Buffett's in the same camp.
No, I know, yes, so is Charlie Munger. But you want me to list 10 people that aren't in that camp that are...
I'm just suggesting that there's a lot of smart people who also have that view.
A lot of smart people who have a different view.
The point is, it hasn't outlived a general bull market. We've been in a bull market since March of 2009.
Right.
And when we get into a bear market, which Joe may think we never will be again, a serious bear market of down 50, 60, 70, do we think it will prosper in that environment?
Anybody that listened to you from 2010, you've done a grave disservice to them. So if you feel fine with that's what you do for a living. That's fine. I don't have a problem. Andrew invited you on. I'm just pointing out the facts of the situation. If someday you might be right like a broken clock. That's what we'll say. This may be a huge bubble that we're in, but
Joe,
you've said it again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
Takes its view from gleaning the internet.
This is your track record.
It isn't my track record. I can go through and give you quarterly letters, which I have written, bracing yourself for a melt-up, a market melt-up. 2018, that's already 8 years, proves you don't know what you're talking about. And there are plenty of others like that.
I don't know where to go with that, Joe. You can take them on
I said my piece. You booked them. You've got your 1929 book out. Maybe it happens at some point. Maybe it doesn't. But, hopefully it doesn't. The market at this point, the S&P is pushing 8,000 eventually. And you've probably been bearish for 80% of that.
I've been saying that the market is overpriced by long-term standards.
We were at 2,300 at the bottom in April of 2021. Did you ever turn bullish?
Yeah, shout out Joe Kernan. I love Joe Kernan. He's the best. Okay, so we did see a little bit of commentary on this, which I find pretty interesting. And then I will chat about it a little bit because personally, I know some of you guys yell at me all the time and like, man, why does Opti hate the boomers so much? And you know, it's not necessarily that I dislike the boomer. Like my dad's a boomer, okay? I deal with this constantly. So I do pick fun at the boomers a little bit, but it's only because it is a generational divide. Now, to the Bitcoin boomers out there that get it, you know, we're on the same team. I love you guys. But what we are seeing is there is a generational divide here. And I will unpack what I mean a little bit on that, but let me go into this Eric Balchunas tweet. So again, Thomas Brazil goes, he looked into this guy, Jeremy Grantham's portfolio, and he's a notorious bear. He's kind of, that's why Joe Kernan was saying, like, you have your 1929 book, you know, Andrew, he's your guest. Like, I know you're kind of pushing that thesis that, hey, the bubble's going to pop eventually. You know, it is a doomer perspective, though I would agree with one thing there where, yeah, you know, the price of everything is going up. And at a certain point, like we are overvalued. Everything is overvalued at this point. But I think he's missing the key point that us Bitcoiners always talk about. It's like, well, you know, they're debasing the fiat currency and who knows, you know, where the top is. But part of what most people miss is the reason the stock markets and everything is going up. The reason we're seeing a bubble of the nature that we're seeing, because they have to continue to devalue the dollar. They have to continue to print money. They have to continue to expand the liquidity base of the dollar to keep this train going. But at a certain point, the music will stop. But anyways, here is the Thomas Brazil tweet here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but again, he's a perpetual doomer, basically saying, you know, like we're going to see a bubble pop, a depression, which I kind of agree with him to some extent. But this is where it gets interesting because apparently he broke down his entire portfolio. And you would think that if he was a doomer, like he says publicly, that his private portfolio would in fact match what he's saying. And you can see the top, the drapes don't match the curtains. Here's the breakdown of it. 536 million in venture funds and private companies, 115 million in public equities, 78 million in cash, 32 million in other investments, and 20 million receivables. This isn't some sleepy index portfolio. It's a complicated institutional portfolio built around active manager selection, private markets, and frontier technology. The venture managers alone are basically a who's who of elite venture capitals. Where's this one? So again, this doesn't exactly scream the hide under your bed thesis that he's talking about. He's basically investing as if he knows the stock market's going to continue to go up. Like there's, quote, nothing wrong with the way he's investing, but the portfolio doesn't match the sales pitch. His own money isn't sitting in index funds or hiding in cash, waiting for the apocalypse. It's invested with some of the best venture capital firms in the world, whose entire job is finding the next generation of technology winners. Now, going further, or actually going back here is Eric Balchunas' take on it. He's like, nice look into how Grantham's own money is long U.S. tech, which taps into something I've long argued. Most perma-bears and doomer columnists are likely long U.S. stocks in their personal assets, I think PA's is. Burry is the exception. He seems to walk the walk, which I respect, even if I don't agree with his calls. So anyway, I thought it was a good breakdown of where his bias is. And honestly, he's like talking his book. Well, actually, he's like literally not talking his book. He's like doing the opposite of what he's literally out here publicly saying one thing and doing the opposite on the back end, which, hey, you know, I maybe you have a problem with that. Like I kind of do. I'm a blank slate here. I'm transparent here. I tell you exactly what I think, where I, you know, where my money is, where my mouth is. It's in Bitcoin. Has it been a bad trade the last year or so? Like, yeah, okay. Hey, you got me on that one. But anyways, I really want to hit more on the point of the generational divide here. And again, I'm not trying to just say like, oh, boomer, have fun staying poor. because I think there's an interesting like unlock here. What is super interesting, and I've been seeing this trend the last couple of weeks. It's kind of been a growing trend that I'm seeing, that a lot of the people that essentially had one of the best bull markets ever built on top of fiat, because the fiat currency was inflating, because asset prices had to go up in response to them expanding the liquidity supply. You do see that there is a lot of hubris from these older investors out there. And look, you could say that us Bitcoiners are hubris at times as well. But like, if you've been a part of one of the best bull runs ever, like, he's got a point. In a bear market here, in a global bear market, how will Bitcoin react? Well, we don't really know. Bitcoin was born out of the 2007, 2008 financial crisis. And in fact, we have been in a pretty much, quote, bull market, just an everything up scenario. So there is that question of what will Bitcoin do in such a case? Do I think that's where where we are? Like, I don't think that everything's going to blow up tomorrow. I think that the stock market assets, they're going to continue to go up because we know they can't stop the train. The big print is coming. They're going to have to continue to expand the liquidity supply. If Trump, at the very least, for the next 2 years, is able to just continue to, quote, manipulate the markets as he has been, we know what he wants to do, which is continue to pump the stock market. He's always out there saying, hey, this is the best stock market ever. Just throw, he's basically giving you stock picks coming out of the White House. What was that? The Eli Lilly one. He keeps doing the same thing. He starts talking about these stocks and then they pump shortly thereafter. The stock market's going to continue to go up. They're going to continue to expand the money supply. So assets are going to continue to go up. But what is interesting, and this is the generational divide that I'm starting to see, is that a lot of people that made their fortunes through the status quo of the fiat system, it's almost like they are, fish in water and they can't tell that they're in the water. They are so, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they're so inundated with the world as it is that it is hard for them to see the world that we think is going to come. Now, obviously, this guy's like 87 years old. So does he really need the Bitcoin thesis that we need from a, 20 to 30 to even 40-year-old perspective? Like, probably not. Like, he doesn't have to really think how we have to think. He doesn't have to plan like we do for the next 30, 40, 50 years and put our money where we think the world is going. And you are seeing a lot of people, again, that became billionaires, became 100 millionaires during this process, where literally all they had to do was just put their money in like an S&P 500 and they made a lot of wealth. We're looking at this from a completely different perspective. And even though this guy has way more authority and clout than I do, obviously he's got way more wealth than I don't even own a suit that nice. Okay. So like, you take my view with a grain of salt here, but this is a trend that I think we're going to continue to see, is that a lot of people that are, wealthy within the system, it's almost like the Matrix meme, where, again, Bitcoiner talks about the Matrix, where they don't understand that they're fighting for the very system to keep it going because that's the system that they profited off of. And maybe they do feel attacked by this new system and therefore they just close their mind to that idea off rip. Like he did the classic, what is Bitcoin used for? It's like, it doesn't pay any dividends. You can't touch it. And it's like, dude, like, boomer. Like, oh, dude, your boomer is showing. I'm sorry. I have to use these words, these derogatory terms here. But we look at this differently. It's like, what is Bitcoin's use? Well, 21 million hard cap. It can't be debased. It's peer-to-peer. I can send it anywhere around the world. The fact that it isn't physical is great because you can transport it a lot easier. It's literally the ephemeral aspect of Bitcoin. The fact that it's quote unquote not real and you can't touch it is one of its features. It's a feature, not a bug. It's like, yeah, I can store my wealth and my value in something that literally it can pop up anywhere in the world at any moment. It's the beauty of it. We are just thinking from a different paradigm shift. Our money is already digital. we live in a digital world. You're seeing a lot of people that have built wealth in the status quo of the system. That maybe it is an age thing. Maybe it's an ego thing. Cause I did find it very interesting that like he kind of got livid. He kind of got hot there. You know, he got pissed off and it's like, why are you so mad? It's like the Joker meme. Why are you so mad? Like, what do we do? Like, hey, we're trying to have a civil conversation on the news here. Why are you getting so mad over this? It's like, hey, have you been wrong? Maybe your personal portfolio hasn't been wrong because obviously you're making money, but publicly the things that you've been saying are not in line with your actions. And this is probably one of the things relating this back into Bitcoin where a lot of people get upset with Peter Schiff. You know, Peter just bought Bitcoin when he started talking about Bitcoin like he would have outperformed probably everyone. But now he is just so invested in being a Bitcoin hater that whether you believe he's a Bitcoiner or not, I kind of believe he is a Bitcoiner. He gets a lot of attention from hating on Bitcoin. And I think we're just going to continue to see this trend. As Bitcoin continues to proliferate, as Bitcoin continues to be adopted more, we're going to see a lot of people that built their wealth in the traditional financial system come out here with authority, with confidence that they are right and we are wrong. And the whole way we're just stacking sats and the price is going to go up. And I really just think it's a generational divide. I saw this tweet and it was saying that I forget what it was, but someone was saying like, yeah, I was at this college the other day and I was talking to a bunch of kids and the way that they were talking about Bitcoin, you know, 18, 20-year-old kids, the way they were talking about Bitcoin, it was not so much of this idea that, oh, maybe this Bitcoin thing's real or not. It was more of this idea that it was inevitable, that the world that we live in, Bitcoin is already money. It's just everyone hasn't woken up to this idea. And I was like, all right, the kids are going to be all right. Okay. Maybe it's just because they have no wealth. And, you know, I was a broke college student once too, and living in my parents' house, in my parents' basement. So I didn't really have any capital at all. But that shift of the older generations being like, this isn't money. It's a toy. It has no value, to the younger generations being like, oh yeah, it's money. What's the conversation? Like, it's money. It's money. I just don't have money to buy it. That's a totally different conversation that we're seeing. So things are going good, guys. Everything is going according to plan. It's feeling pretty good. I feel pretty bullish right now, but wow, dude, I've been rambling way too much today. Okay, I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm keeping it moving. Is it this one? No, this one. All right. I'll be right back. We're going to do a little Clarity Act update, and then I will wrap up today's show with a little, we're going to give you one bullish thing to lay our hats on as we close out the month of June in 2026.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like Bitkey, and I recommend it to my friends and family. Bitkey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life, not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. Bitcoin, and no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about BitKey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in, inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using BitKey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new BitKey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Sorry, it caught me. I was checking Twitter, seeing if there's any breaking news. Okay. Anyways, shouts out to Eleanor Terrett once again. She's been doing great coverage, on in the Imperial City here. Here is her latest tweet this morning on where we currently stand. Honestly, we stand where we stood a little while ago. And look, I don't even understand politics that well, and I'm like, this is just becoming obvious. If I'm able to predict what is going to happen with this Clarity Act, it's just like it's cooked. All right. Anyway, she tweeted the next 2 weeks. Again, remember, it's supposed to happen in January. Gets punted every month. It was supposed to happen by this weekend, the July 4th. America's birthday, 250th birthday, and it looks like we're not going to hit that headline, all right? But anyways, next 2 weeks could decide the fate of the Clarity Act. Now we are getting to that point where if it doesn't happen now, like it's probably not going to happen this year. Again, the next 2 weeks could decide the fate of the Clarity Act. With the Senate out until July 13th, staff, the White House, and industry stakeholders are racing to resolve the issue standing between the Clarity Act and a Senate floor vote. So, reading this article a little bit, with the Senate now in recess until July 13th, the fate of the Clarity Act hinges on the work set to take place behind the scenes over the next 2 weeks. Staff from both parties, administration officials, and industry stakeholders are now on the clock to resolve the remaining issues, including reconciling. Wow, I can't speak today. I can't read. Including reconciling the Banking and Agricultural Committee text and reaching agreement on ethics and illicit finance. More on that below. When senators return, the focus will shift from negotiations to procedure and preparing the bill for Senate floor consideration. Majority Leader John Thune said he wants to prioritize the National Defense Authorization Act, the must-pass defense bill during the week of July 13. If that timeline holds, the Clarity Act could receive floor consideration later that month or during the first week of August before Congress breaks for its summer recess. Conventional wisdom is that the Clarity Act must pass the Senate before the August recess if it stands a chance at becoming law this year. For that to happen, the bill would need the support of at least 60 senators, including at least 7 Democrats, assuming all 53 Republicans vote in favor, which is not guaranteed since during floor consideration of the Genius Act, Senators Josh Haley and Rand Paul voted no. The support of many Democrats, including 2 who voted to advance the bill out of the Senate Banking Committee last month, is likely to hinge on whether the White House agrees to a strong ethics frameworks addressing President Trump's crypto businesses, which have generated more than $2 billion in new wealth for him since returning to office. So, guys, we'll read this. Others worry the calendar could prove to be the bigger challenge. With little time remaining and uncertainty over whether Republicans can secure the 60 votes needed to pass the bill through the Senate, still has learned that Republican senators have a renewed sense of urgency to get the bill passed, driven by heightened political pressure following President Trump's decision to cancel the housing bill signing, as well as the realization that time is running short. So, new deadlines here, and I think I'm just gonna hold on to what I've been kind of saying. Everyone has been saying that we need the Clarity Act to pass because trillions, billions of dollars are sitting on the sideline waiting to get deployed into Bitcoin and crypto once the Clarity Act passes. Now, it sounds great. You know me. I'm an unashamed number go up maxi. I love number go up. It's not the only reason I'm here, but it is one of the most fun reasons, okay? Hey, I love everything else about Bitcoin, but I have in the past fallen for the idea that, oh, this thing's going to happen and numbers going to go up because of it. In particular, the ETF, which I guess kind of it did. You know, you could argue and make the case that we got to 100K because of the ETFs. Trump becoming president, first quote Bitcoin president. Let's be honest, price pumped when he got elected. We were all pretty bullish on that. Have we had any real material gain since then? Not really. We pretty much round trip back to what 2021 highs. So, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. I forget what the original quote is, but fool me by 3 times, you can't fool me again. You know, butchering the classic George Bush tweet or clip quote. This is kind of what I'm feeling with this. From what I've seen with the Clarity Act, I am definitely on the side of like, I don't even think I want this bill to pass. I think it's actually going to be a monstrosity and probably be a lot worse for Bitcoin. It might be good for, quote, digital assets and crypto at large, but for us Bitcoiners, it doesn't seem like it does anything for us unless the fabled, you know, capital coming off the sidelines actually does materialize here. It really is like, is the capital in the room with us here after the Clarity Act passes? It's like we are literally in the psych ward, and it's like, no, guys, this time's for sure. The institutions are finally going to pump our bags, and we're like 5 years later. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I'm kind of leaning towards I don't even want to see this pass. Now, that's just my personal opinion of that. From the process that I've seen as covered by Eleanor, now it's August, okay, guys? So, hey, we're holding our breath till August. This time's for reals, okay? This time it's going to really happen, all right? It's going to get passed in August, okay? But look, I'm being cynical and I'm joking about it. Obviously, I think I saw that everyone is kind of raising their odds now. It was hitting like, you know, 40% on the betting markets, which I really don't put too much faith on. But I think the overall consensus right now is like 50-50. It's a coin toss on whether the Clarity Act is actually going to get signed into law this year. Though I have seen a big push coming from the Trump administration to get it passed. Obviously, Scott Bessent's been very vocal. We know Trump's been very vocal. There's a lot of Bitcoiners in the Trump administration that want to see this pass. But at this point, it's I don't know, probably not going to happen this year, guys, okay? So if we were all waiting for the Clarity Act to pass, for the institutions to deploy capital, everyone's saying that that is the catalyst. Maybe I can be wrong. Remember like a month ago, like we saw things switch on a dime one morning. It was like everyone had convinced themselves that it wasn't going to happen, and then a news story happened. And it's like, oh wait, no, actually now it might actually happen. Things can change. I guess we're all just, you know, going to punt this news story until August. Obviously, it's July 4th this weekend for us here in America. So they are on a break, holiday break until, again, the July 13th, meaning no official work will be done on it. Maybe there'll be some kind of, you know, barbecue lobbying going on that maybe things change by the time they come back. And then, again, if it doesn't happen by August, they take a summer break. When they come back, I believe it's around September, it's the midterms. This will completely fall away. So this is the last stretch. All right. Hopefully, at least from my perspective on this, whether it passes or it doesn't, at least I can stop talking about it. You know, it's almost like when I have to cover the Iran war, it's like, okay, here we are. We're covering it again. There was a ceasefire and then there wasn't, and now there is again, and now it's back on. And, you know, we've won this war about 11 times now, but yet we're still negotiating. You know, there was like literally 5 weeks of fighting, and then we've been in a ceasefire ever since, but except for little skirmishes here. So it's just one of these stories that keeps lingering. Hopefully soon we can put it to rest. We can put it behind us. And then if it doesn't pass this time, I don't know, in 2 years or something, we can come back to the Clarity Act, chat about it a little bit. But that's where we are. Okay. So look, new news is the same as the old news. It's just getting punted, keeps getting pushed back, though we're not going to get that July 4th deadline. So that's the latest update. Let's we're gonna have a little fun here. Let's have a little fun to wrap up today's show. We might be getting a little bullish. Might get a little bullish.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEdigitaltech.com.
You secured your Bitcoin, but did you secure your devices too? They're still broadcasting your location and digital footprint. GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell, 5G, EMF, all of it is leaking. Escape Zone fixes that. Their Faraday bags block every signal your device emits, so you decide when you're detectable, not the grid. Built for Bitcoiners who know sovereignty isn't just your wallet. It's your phone, your hardware wallet, your keys, and your entire digital life. Go to escapezone.com/simply and use code simply for 10% off. That's escapezone.com/simply, code simply. Oh, sorry, guys. Yo, I just realized the Rumble stream never went live. Wow, that's crazy. It didn't connect. That's crazy. I just did the whole show and I just realized it disconnected on Rumble. Wow. Sorry, hold on. Sorry, guys. Not sure what happened. Guess it never connected on Rumble. Wow, what a... Okay, all right. Sorry, guys. I mean, you Rumble guys aren't seeing it, but hey, it is what it is. It's Monday. I guess it didn't stream to Rumble. What a day. All right, anyways. All right. Before I do this, we'll sprinkle a little hopium in here on Monday. Let's do vibe checks here. Are you guys feeling bearish, bullish right now? Do you think the 60K, 58 to 60K was the bottom for this cycle? Are you seeing that the bears, the sellers are being exhausted? I want us to do a little vibe check right now from you guys. As I cover one, I wouldn't even say it's a bullish indicator. It's just a little hopium. All right, we're doing a little hopium Monday. I know I told you guys I'll do some memes, but I haven't really seen that many good memes recently. So I'll do my best to maybe have to acquire them throughout the week of some good memes. So I'll do a show for you guys. I don't know. I'm not gonna guarantee on Friday, maybe next Monday. I don't know. I'll do one here soon. All right. But I'm not really seeing the best memes. Anyways, this is kind of a meme though. All right. You guys know I love this historic monthly returns chart. A lot of people were talking about an interesting fact here, an interesting little connection. And maybe this is us just looking for hopium. Maybe this is us just literally, the hopium isn't just for you, for the engagement. It's for us. It's for us to not stop believing. It's for us to continue the belief that we will be saved. But anyways, everyone was pointing out this morning, or maybe everyone on my time, because everyone was talking about the Saylor stuff, but I saw a bunch of people doing the hopium post on a Monday morning, okay? At the end of June, We do got a hopium post here. Now, every other model and every other kind of bullish signal we've had in the past has basically been broken. We always shift towards a new model when our old thesis breaks. It's just classic TA work, right? But people are noticing an interesting pattern here that has, I guess, held up until now, till the basically since Bitcoin got a price on it. So every time Bitcoin has gone negative in May and June, we have had a positive July and sometimes a very positive August. So it happened in 2013. It happened in 2018. It happened in 2021, 2022, and we are most likely going to close negative on June. We have today and tomorrow. So we can pretty much lock in a negative May and a negative June. So if this pattern holds up, it's literally hit what, 6 out of 6 times? Let me see. No, 5, 4. 4 out of 4. Now we're on the 5th. Let's see. Are we bullish on July, boys and girls? Are we bullish on July? I am kind of feeling a little bullish. I do feel like it's seller exhaustion right now. Actually, I'm of two minds. So I'll give you my kind of view. My bullish take on it is, like, as I've been saying, I think that 58 to 60K was the bottom. I am kind of been trolling that I'm a wick off accumulation maxi. It seems to be playing out perfectly. With that being said, if you're looking at the chart, I'm like, dude, it could just be a bowling ball rolling off a cliff right now. Okay, so hey, I hold those two opinions in my mind. But I did see an interesting kind of conversation going on Twitter, and it does go back to the 4-year cycle. Obviously, everyone's been extremely bullish on the, well, I guess maybe bearish or convinced of the 4-year cycle. And it's one of the things I've been kind of saying. It's like, look, the 4-year cycle, at least via the technical metrics that we always used, was broken when we got an all-time high before the halving. Yes, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high when we all expected it to. Roughly, 18 months after the halving is when you get an all-time high. And then that would mean that the following year, going into about what we would say Q4 of this year, is when you'd see the bottom of Bitcoin. But someone added an interesting kind of injection to that idea that the 4-year cycle has been invalidated when we got an all-time high before the halving. And I think the date was like 37 days before the halving. So rounding up, we got a all-time high a month before the halving. And yes, we got an all-time high in October, which is roughly where we thought it would. It wasn't as high as we thought it would. But now everyone is expecting the absolute bottom to be Q4 of this year, roughly October. But the wrinkle idea here that I found interesting, and again, maybe this is just hopium for me, and I'm confirming my bias, but it was, since we got an all-time high before the halving, the cycles are accelerating in time frame. So we got all-time high before the halving, which would basically, if it works out, it's on a 1-to-1. We would get, at the very least, the bottom a month before our expected date, which everyone is saying Q4 or October. I'm kind of the opinion that 60K was already the bottom. So does that change our strategy here? Not at all. Just continue to accumulate Bitcoin. Just almost set it and forget it. Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever works best for you, daily, whatever works best for you. Now is, I think, the best time to be buying Bitcoin. When it hurts, it's when you need to accumulate the coin. This is the strategy that's been working for every Bitcoiner before me, and I believe every Bitcoin after me. It's worked during my whole time here. I'm on what? 9 years? 9 years of doing, dude, it's crazy. 9 years. Actually nuts. I've almost been doing this a decade. What is going on? Dude, a decade, and we just round trip 47 times. Amazing. But the name of the game, again, accumulation. You know, if you're looking only at all-time highs, then if you're only buying at all-time highs, then yeah, maybe there's not that many gains to be had. But if you buy the tops and you buy the bottoms and you buy all the dips, you're accumulating more Bitcoin throughout this process. And as we know, the price will continue to go up. Everything divided by 21 million, or at least half of everything divided by 21 million, means numbers going to go up. Just continue to accumulate. Do we know where the halving is going to end? No, we will know in hindsight. But I am starting to get a little bullish. At the very least, again, connecting this May and June red month, July is going to be a green month. If you are overlaying this with the wick-off accumulation chart, it kind of does hold very well. So, you know, we got the dip down in the 58. It'd be like the spring, and then we're going to climb up. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to completely break out. We'll probably test that upper range, which is somewhere in the 80s, and then we'll probably pull back down a little bit, give you maybe one last opportunity before we really start to make our our run back up. And if that does play out, and that happens to be around Q4, everyone's going to be like, see, I told you the 4-year cycle was intact. And it's like, okay, well, it's not necessarily what everyone thought when we say the 4-year cycle is intact. But, you know, hey, I'll let you take your victory lap. But I think in hindsight, again, and I could be wrong. What do I know? I think right now is a good time to be buying. I really don't care about the price too much. Like, yeah, I care about it going up. Do I care about it going down? Well, you know, again, being all in on Bitcoin, sometimes I do have to use a little bit of Bitcoin. You know? Actually, I don't have any Bitcoin. It hurts, you know, it hurts seeing your net worth get cut in half. It hurts seeing it go 80% down. But if you're buying, you get more Bitcoin. All right. So let me see what the chat's saying. The answer is always Bitcoin. Let me see. Yeah. All my homies buy tops, bro. All my homies buy generational tops as timestamps. Millionaires are made during these times. Bitcoin Barber. This is a completely different cycle. Wall Street is on Bitcoin. Banks is on Bitcoin. Nation states on Bitcoin. Completely different cycle. Cycles are market mind virus. Dude, they really feel like self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Let's see. One Fibonacci retracement level below 58K gain. Then it's up forever. Never to see these lows prices again. Scarf the Cat. What would be that level? What's that Fibonacci retracement level under 50K? The price should spike before the halving. So 4-year cycle broken. October timeframe. How low will the price go? That's true. I think the halvings are becoming irrelevant. I don't think we can say the last one was irrelevant, but I think moving forward, they are going to have a lot less effect. Let's see. Even without the Clarity Act, software will keep developing. Satoshi had no Clarity Act, and look what he was able to do. I agree. Let's see. Craw. Bitcoin follows futures and perps liquidity. It does not do what it wants to do. Okay. More like Saylor exhaustion. All right, last one. Satwise, currently around 76,000 would bring us back to the 200-day moving average. At that point, we could either break through or fall back for 2 more months of bear before bottom. Yeah, that would be like the wick-off accumulation, right? I think we're in alignment, Satwise. I think I'd probably agree with that. Any guess on price in 10 months? I don't know. Up. I'm gonna say up. Senor Gringo Poppy. So true. I really just hope we aren't highly regarded. All right. Anyways, guys, let's wrap it up for today. All right. We will see you all week. Let's see what happens. See what happens. We will make it through another week. Okay. Actually, we're going to rebrand the channel from Simply Bitcoin to Bitcoin Anonymous or Simply Support Group. We are Simply Support Group. Okay. We are. Hold on. This is a good comment. In my opinion, 4-year cycles was habit of a young developing asset. As it grows, it will mature, less volatility, more structure. Bitcoin is like a 13-year-old boy. Yeah. I kind of agree with that. Though I don't like the idea of it maturing yet. I still think there's still a lot of gains to be had. I don't think we've gotten to a point of, price stability here. I don't believe in diminishing returns. I think there will get a point where we will see, rapid repricing in the price. And then after a certain point, it will stabilize. Now, I know everyone's pointing at the diminishing returns as it, basically stabilizing. But I'm still a believer in the S-curve adoption level here. And you do see it kind of, this way. You do see him go like that, and the adoption. Anyways, this will pass. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day. Bad time to quit drinking. You're funny, country hillbilly, country club hillbilly. Oh, man. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day. Remember, we're not just here to accumulate Bitcoin. We're here to improve as humans. So make sure you're locking in. I know, actually, I've been telling you guys for a while to lock in. Now it's summertime. So you're kind of late on locking in for your summer bod, but point remains the same. You could lock in. So this time next year, you're a better person. Lock in on your diet. Make sure you're working out, moving your body, learn a little stress management. I think actually we're adding a new one. Figure out how to manage your stress. Call your loved ones, eat some good food. And of course, continue to accumulate the corn. Continue to accumulate the Bitcoin. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you on tomorrow's show for another Simply Bitcoin Live. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.